Hello and welcome to this special WEF NDTV debate. The subject today is what kind of a superpower will India be? Which of course begs many other questions. What exactly do you mean by a superpower? I'd just like to start off first of all by welcoming Sudha Pillai, who is Member Secretary of the Planning Commission. Anil Gupta of INSEAD, he's the Chairman and Professor at INSEAD in Singapore, has done a lot of work on China and India and has written a book on that as well. One of the first books ever to be actually co-authored by an Indian and a Chinese. So we'll be taking a lot from the Chinese example and throwing that at you. Anil Gupta? I mean, we all think that China is a superpower already. Is India getting there, or is this all a bit premature?
I'm very optimistic that India will get there. And I see the two questions, how India will become a superpower and what kind of superpower it will be, as totally interconnected. Because an evolutionary complex system like India cannot change its stripes once it becomes a superpower. So therefore, if we become a superpower, what kind of a superpower we are will already be predefined. So therefore, really the important question is, what does India need to do to become a superpower? Number one.
The kind of a superpower you are saying will almost be predefined. So we'll try and figure out.
It will be predefined. Basically, either we become a superpower or we don't. And if we do, that will determine what kind of a superpower we are.
Okay, sir. You know, we want to build infrastructure because China is doing it. Is there that element of competition that you see, and should there be any competition? Or is China right now in a completely different league?
I mean, I definitely think competition is a great thing. And in fact, you know, what else could a strategy professor say? And I also like, in fact, Anand Mahindra's comment about that, you know, for a country that invented yoga, we didn't really learn to stretch until, you know, China forced us to. So I think that's a good thing. I would like to add one more thing, is that so far it appears that we are using the wrong paradigm to think about the concept of superpower. Because essentially, we are transitioning very rapidly from a world dominated by one pole, the US. So essentially, from a unipolar world, we are never going to be getting into another unipolar world, whether it's dominated by a China or an India or whoever. It will be a multipolar world. And in a multipolar world, to be a superpower is fundamentally a different thing than a unipolar world. In fact, a soft superpower will have a far greater influence in a multipolar world than a hard superpower.
Anil?
You know, as I said earlier, India has every reason to be proud of democracy, political, cultural, religious, and so on. But one area which is rich-poor gap, you know, again, going back to China, that in fact, in terms of economic democracy, in terms of economic inclusiveness, we ought to be ashamed of the situation in India.
Is it really, or is it sometimes disguised? I mean, one of the issues is that here in India, you can have debates like this, you can't discuss it. You have Shoma and others going out and reporting what's happening in the poorest districts.
Sure. I mean, 80,000 rights is the correct number, and that's because, you know, the local officials in China take over land and don't properly compensate. So all of that is absolutely true. But whether we look at the numbers put out by, you know, the World Bank and other sources, or one actually goes to Chinese villages and Indian villages, I would have to say that the standard of living in the poorest 10% of China is significantly better than the poorest 10% of India.
I sort of make a slight contradictory statement, which is that we have a neighbor to the north that actually never cares for soft power. And so therefore, if India is to emerge as a soft power, it must be militarily very strong.
This has been a special edition. Thank you all for watching. Bye.